The fight before Christmas. Good morning, everyone. I'm Maria Bartiromo. Welcome to Sunday Morning Futures. The lame duck Congress returns from its Thanksgiving break tomorrow morning with just small windows to tackle some big issues before leaving on the next holiday. We will get a window into their priorities with Congressman Peter King coming up. Tomorrow also is Cyber Monday, but after so many stories this past year about predators overseas hacking into personal accounts, not to mention business accounts, how safe are consumers when shopping online? Meanwhile, after anemic back-to-school sales this year, retailers are hoping we are in the mood to indulge this holiday season. The president of Toys R Us will join us live as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures. A couple of items on the agenda when the lame duck Congress returns tomorrow, but they are big ones. Two House committees are holding hearings this week on the president's executive actions on immigration. The Judiciary Committee on Tuesday and Homeland Security on Wednesday. This as lawmakers have another budget deadline looming. And of course, last week's big announcement that may signal a big change in our defense strategy, the resignation of Secretary Chuck Hagel. Congressman Peter King is a member of the Homeland Security Committee. He joins us now. He chairs the subcommittee on counterterrorism and intelligence. Congressman, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much.
Let's take a look at tomorrow when business gets back to usual. What do you want Congress to prioritize in terms of getting things done beginning tomorrow?
Well, the main thing we have to do right now, between now and December 11th, is to make sure that we, to me, pass the omnibus bill, which means get all the spending straightened out for the end of the fiscal year, which is next September 30th. Right now, all authorization for spending expires on December 11th. And I don't think it's good for the Congress, it's good for the Republican Party, or good for the people for us to be bogged down in an endless budget debate between now and the end of the year and then into next year. With the Republican House and Republican Senate, I want us to have a clean slate so we can lay out our agenda and have real budget fights going into next year, but not to be having them now when it's done under the gun and the possible threat of a government shutdown and, again, just lurching from month to month. We should wrap it up through September 30th, but then as of January 1st, really start fighting it out of what our policies are and what the president's are.
It certainly makes sense. But so tell me, in terms of budgeting, what are your priorities? I mean, would you prioritize defense spending over something else? Where do you see the priority?
I believe right now that we have to do what we can to end or minimize the sequestration when it comes to the military. Because, again, when sequestration was put into place, everyone was, or at least the president was talking about troops coming out of Iraq, troops coming out of Afghanistan, and terrorism being on the run. Well, the fact is, our troops are back in Iraq. The president is talking about troops staying in Afghanistan for at least another year, at least that's what the reports are. And then ISIS is such as your former Secretary Hagel had said, is such a great, great threat to our country, a severe threat. We have to have increased military spending.
Yeah, for sure. All right, plenty to talk about with you this morning, Congressman. Stay with us. More with Peter King coming up. But first, let's look at that lame duck Congress, and will it live up to its name? Or could we expect something prolific out of it ahead of the holidays? Fox News senior correspondent Eric Shawn on that angle. Good morning to you, Eric.
Good morning, Maria, and good morning, everyone. You know, it may be the holiday season, but they are gearing up for continued confrontation in Washington. As the House reconvenes tomorrow, the lame duck is biting back. From immigration to Obamacare, the knives are out on Capitol Hill as Congress goes back to work for 8 days.
If the president has the ability to announce, I'm not going to enforce federal immigration laws because I disagree with him, and the president has the same power to say, I'm not going to enforce tax laws or labor laws or environmental laws, that's dangerous. It's why we have a Constitution.
I hope and I believe that the Republicans on Capitol Hill learned a lesson when Senator Ted Cruz of Texas shut down the government over the Affordable Care Act. It was a political disaster, which they should never repeat. What the president is doing is basically saying, I'm going to do what I can within my power to have accountability in immigration.
Well, Republicans are responding to the president's controversial immigration executive order by considering spending moves to try and curtail it. And again, the GOP will attack parts of Obamacare by targeting the employer mandate, hoping to delay that. And you know, they've already filed their lawsuit against the president over his signature law. And despite its narrow loss in the Senate, the Keystone Pipeline will likely be back. And with the Republicans soon in charge of both houses, that measure is expected to pass and head to the president's desk, where he will likely veto it. And then there will be some more unpleasant reminders of his tenure.
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully exercise my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer that question.
The shocking discovery of 30,000 of former IRS official Lois Lerner's missing emails will breathe new life into the investigation of the agency's alleged political targeting of conservative groups. More hearings on what those emails could expose are expected. And yet again in Washington, it seems the more things change, the more they stay the same. And you can bet if anything actually does get done, both sides will try to stop the other from getting any credit. Maria?
All right, Eric, thanks very much. Eric Shawn, we are back now with more from Congressman Peter King. Congressman, let me ask you, once 2015 and the new Congress takes effect, what would you like to see in terms of the easy things to get done? We know that the Keystone Pipeline failed in the Senate. Will it become another issue come January?
I think it'll be relatively easy to pass it through the House and Senate now that they're under Republican control. And that will force it to the president's desk. So the easy part will be getting it through the House and through the Senate. As far as other issues on Obamacare, as to how we phase it back and ultimately lead to its repeal altogether. Now, the repeal is not going to happen overnight, but we can start attacking parts of it, such as the individual mandate. That should be able to pass through the House and the Senate. Certainly the medical device tax. I believe we can get that through the House and Senate to have that repealed. And what this will do is this will force a dialogue with the president. And also that this will play into the whole spending debate, the whole budget debate. We will be able to get everything to the president's desk. And that is going to force him, I believe, to negotiate. And it's just going to change the whole power structure in Washington. And not just, the president just can't rely on Harry Reid, to block things in the Senate. We passed over 300 bills last year, which just sat in the Senate. Now, many of those types of bills will be passed by both houses and go to the president, and that's going to, I think, be a healthy debate for the country. It's not going to just be a partisan fight. I think if we can actually get bills through, they go to his desk, then the president's going to be forced to negotiate, being forced to debate it, and not just have these hidden away. So I think actually we can see some progress. As far as immigration, I think that's possible, but it was made much, much more difficult by the president issuing the executive order.
All right, let me ask you this. Last week, of course, we learned that Chuck Hagel stepping down as defense secretary. Is this basically telling us that the strategy against ISIS has failed?
Yes, I was struck over the last several months the way Secretary Hagel was publicly disagreeing with the president as far as the policies toward ISIS and Syria. The way the president was still, at a time when the president was still not acknowledging the real danger from ISIS, Secretary Hagel was saying it's perhaps the greatest threat our country has ever faced. So, the one real difference is, so I think that with Secretary Hagel gone, I'm not sure what it means, other than there's a dissatisfaction between him and the president. Is the president going to change policies? What are his policies going to be? And that's going to evolve over the next several months. That's why I think, once we get to January and we start having the Senate confirmation hearings and Senator McCain as new chairman of the Armed Services Committee, it's going to be very interesting because it's not going to be just a confirmation hearing on a nominee, but it's going to be a whole discussion of policy and where we go forward. And as you know, Senator McCain has had strong differences with the president. And quite frankly, I don't know what the president's policy is right now when it comes to ISIS and the Middle East.
And clearly, Chuck Hagel had differences with the president as well. As you just mentioned, he was publicly disagreeing. So do you think we could see a completely new strategy against ISIS come January and the new defense secretary in place, meaning perhaps boots on the ground?
I believe that we have to ultimately have a number of troop boots on the ground, not so much in a combat role, but as far as being better with the Iraqi army to coordinate strategy and tactics with the Kurds, also to have special operators on the ground to carry out missions which only special forces can do, and also to have spotters on the ground so we can make better use of the air attacks. But there has to be a real discussion on what we're doing. I support a strong policy against ISIS. I also believe we have to be ready to move against Assad. And with the president, it's always one step forward, one step backward, or one step to the side. We're going in, but we're not going to use ground troops. We're going to do this, but we're not going to do that. It's a very uncoordinated, really floundering policy. So hopefully, even though I thought Chuck Hagel did a good job as defense secretary, better than a lot of Republicans had thought he would when he was going through his confirmation hearings. It depends really on what the president wants his policy to be. I don't know if he's decided yet what it's going to be.
Right. How do you want the GOP to respond to the president's executive action on immigration?
I believe that we should not be talking about shutting the government down, but when January comes, we should use every opportunity we can to block initiatives and moves that the president wants to make, whether it involves confirmation of certain officials, whether it involves confirming judges. And we have to make it clear, not in a power play, but to restore the balance of power and to restore the proper constitutional powers to the Congress and to tell the president this isn't a one-way street.
Congressman, good to have you on the program today. Thanks so much.
Maria, thank you.
We'll see you soon. Up next, the president of Toys R Us is with us. We'll see if he can help you and your budget stay on the nice list this year. And I hope you'll follow me on Twitter. Maria Bartiromo is the handle. Sunday Future is the handle for the program. Stay with us. Tell me what you'd like to hear from the CEO of Toys R Us. He's next as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures.